Ahoy there, podcast listeners. Welcome to the Purple People podcast. My name's Kyle West, and on the other side of the pirate ship is Adam Carlson. What's up, Adam?
R. Not too much is up. Just enjoying seeing some Vikings players play some football this week, and looking forward to talking to you guys about our running backs.
Yeah, first we got the Pro Bowl to cover before we get into our running backs. And like you said before we started recording, Vikings fans had a lot to be proud of during
They sure did.
Pro Bowl this year.
Who impressed you the most from the Pro Bowl?
Well, I mean, that's kind of obvious. You got to go with Kyle Rudolph, the Pro Bowl MVP. Really awesome to see him go out there and do good, and hopefully that's a sign of the kind of season he's going to have in 2013 for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I think we can see Rudolph have this kind of production in Minnesota with a couple more pieces around him at wide receiver to help out. I'm looking forward to seeing him develop.
Yeah, me too. 5 catches, 122 yards, 1 touchdown. He would have had a second touchdown, but Doug Martin just kind of like popped up there and like grabbed one out from in front of him, so he would have had 2 touchdowns on the game. And yeah, nothing but good things to say for Kyle Rudolph, and he got a new car out of the deal too.
That's true. That was a nice one.
Yeah.
You know who else had a really nice night that night was Blair Walsh. Another flawless game. Made everything that he was asked to make.
Mm-hmm. We've talked so much about Blair Walsh. I don't even know really what we can add to it. So let's go on.
We like him.
Let's talk about Jerome Felton a little bit, who came kind of out of nowhere, had 4 rushes for 17 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, we aren't used to seeing him running with the football in Minnesota. They got a different guy there to do that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a surprise, but it was nice to see Felton getting some touches, getting in the end zone, and hopefully we'll talk a little bit more about him when we talk about our running backs.
Mm-hmm. And our main running back, Adrian Peterson, didn't really have that spectacular of a Pro Bowl game.
No.
There was someone on the Facebook group who was very poignant when they pointed out that, well, if he's going to have a game where he's going to fumble and then only rush for 13 yards, hey, it might as well be in the Pro Bowl as opposed to the regular season. So I am 100% with that one. And
Well, actually, I had something I wanted to add to what you were saying about the fumble there. This is how important it is to have a running back and a quarterback that are on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
You saw previously with Tavares Jackson, when he was handing the ball off to Adrian Peterson, you saw all sorts of sloppiness, fumbles, knees hitting. It was just a mess. It seems like Peterson and Ponder have the handoffs down.
Yeah, it's a lot trickier. It's not just handing the ball off. There's definite timing involved in that. And
oh yeah, timing, placement, familiarity, it's all those things.
Yep.
We saw Chad Greenway dive on a football there on a muff kick return.
Yeah, Chad Greenway on special teams. How's that, Vikings fans? We don't
That was fun.
see that a whole heck of a lot.
No. But he played up to his usual level, as we expected.
Yeah, like I said, Pro Bowl defenses are a little lax in the Pro Bowl, but Chad was still out there doing his thing, and Matt Khalil, the last-minute replacement, came out there, plays every snap of the football game.
Sure did.
I mean, come on, and he didn't even know he was going to be playing until a day before the game or something like that. So
you got to give him mad props for that. The one guy we didn't talk about was Jared Allen.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really show up much. He had a tackle. Didn't have a mullet, so I don't know.
Yeah, I saved Jared for the very end because it's so funny to listen to him in the post-game press conference talk about what an honor it is to go to the Pro Bowl, and he likes going there, and that's the reason why he shows up to it. And then you see him play, and you can just tell that Jared is running at half speed. Maybe half speed is even giving him the benefit of the doubt a little bit. But hey, if I'm Jared Allen and I'm voted into the Pro Bowl, I guess I'm taking the free trip to Hawaii too and enjoying the nice weather and what have you. And I'm not killing myself out there either. But
well, I just want to take a quick moment, and I know the players of the Vikings probably don't listen to this, but I want to thank them for playing because a lot of teams have guys just wuss out, and they are playing for us, the fans. Us Vikings fans really appreciate them showing up and playing, representing the team and the fans and everything like that. So I know to a lot of people this is a meaningless game, but I still would like to thank them for participating and showing that they care.
Yeah, and it's bittersweet, obviously, that, we got to sit here and talk about how well all of our players did in the Pro Bowl. We'd much rather be doing a preview of the Vikings going into the Super Bowl right now.
Oh yes,
But still, you know what? I do actually like to see the fact that they recognize that, we got some good talent on this team.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's move right into talking about the running backs because we're going to try to keep this a kind of short show because it's the off season. You guys don't want to sit and listen to us yammer on for 40 minutes, do you?
Yeah, if you do, tweet us at Purple People Pod. That was a Mick Foley cheap plug. I'm doing the thumbs up right now, but you can't see
I
it
love it.
because it's radio.
Now, let's talk about the main man, Adrian Peterson. What more can you really say about him?
Well, clearly, I think the Minnesota Vikings should trade him, like what everyone. Oh, wait, that's what people were talking about prior to the knee injury. How the time was right to trade Adrian. No, actually, turns out that was stupid. Anyone who said that. Um,
He'll never be the same after his injury. We might be able to get a third rounder for him.
yeah, if we're lucky, maybe we can get Tim Hightower and a fourth round draft pick out of Adrian Peterson. Uh, he should have another spectacular season for 2013. Will he go for 2000? Will he break it? You know what? I doubt it.
Probably not.
That's not going to happen. If we learned anything from Jared Allen being half a sack shy of breaking the record, it's that stuff like that is really hard to do, even if you're Adrian Peterson. So,
Well, we're going to have a little bit to talk about next week at the top of the show about Adrian Peterson, too, because we will find out on Saturday whether or not he's named MVP or Comeback Player of the Year.
oh yeah, I'll save my thoughts for that for next week. That'll be fun
So
to talk about too.
that'll be interesting. But yeah, you can't put any sort of knock on Adrian Peterson. He fumbled the ball very few times, got in the end zone 12 times, just had a nice career. It was a career year for him. It really
It
was.
really was. He,
He also got more involved in the passing game this year 40 catches, 217 yards. And that's good to see because he's willing to take on a role like that and help the team. It also takes some of the pressure off the receivers. I just like seeing it all around.
yeah, and the one stat that I want to point out for him that I'm very glad that you brought up was the fumble stat, because the one knock on Adrian is that he's fumble prone. Do you know how many he had in 2012, Adam?
I do. I'm looking at the sheet right now.
He had four.
I have three.
Now I'm on ESPN right now, and they've got him listed as having four fumbles.
Um. Oh yeah, one in the passing game.
Yep, yep.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, so yeah, you're looking at three in, with him running, and then the one in like you said, in the pass like that.
Yep. So those numbers being down are fantastic. Of those four fumbles, only two were lost.
Hmm.
So you can't really complain about that kind of production at all. You got about 6 yards of carry.
And you
I don't know. I
you
don't know
can't
what else to
even
say.
really say he's injury prone after the recovery that he had either, because it seems like even if he does get hurt, uh, he's still gonna come back and give you an awesome game afterward. So
He sits out a couple practices and shows up for the next game.
yeah, yeah, practice. Who needs to practice?
It's pretty amazing.
Practice when you're Adrian Peterson.
Sure, Iverson.
Yeah.
Sure, sure. But let's talk about Toby Gerhardt for a minute because a lot of people thought that he would have a much bigger role this year, and we really didn't see him as much as we thought we would.
I was expecting a lot more from Toby. Yeah, I was right on that boat, and part of that had to do with, well, when Adrian's running the way Adrian's running, folks, you really don't need to use Toby Gerhardt that much. Uh, what bugged me about him is that there were times earlier on in the season where he did get put out there, and I'm talking about that game against the 49ers, where he seemed to have some issues holding on to the ball and just
Yes.
some other weird things that just seemed to happen when he was out there on the field. And he's a pro. You know that game in particular bothered him big time. You could just tell by his body language.
It had to have.
Yeah, and he's gonna work really hard, and he's a trooper for sure for not complaining about the situation that he's in Minnesota. And I actually think it's a good situation for him being underneath Adrian.
I do too. I like him as a backup. I think he'll be cheap to sign back.
Mhm.
I don't see a whole lot of teams are going to try to grab him out from under their noses. But the thing that concerns me about Toby Gerhardt is that we won't really have an opportunity to know the potential he has to play a full game because he only really gets garbage time or carries on third down when it's third and really short or something like that. And he was a high draft pick, so I expected to see him used a lot more. But I don't know. I guess I can't complain with what he's done, but I would have liked to have seen more.
I would too, and I think he'll stay with Minnesota. He just strikes me as the kind of guy that unless there's some team that gives him some really huge contract, which, like you said, that's not gonna happen. He'll stay with Minnesota, I think.
Now let's talk about the surprise running back because I didn't really see Matt Asiata being the third down running back or being the third running back because I thought they'd have a third down running back kind of guy,
Hmm.
a smaller guy, pass catcher out of the backfield that could chip and block. But instead they went with the big-bodied Matt Asiata, and he had 3 carries on the season for 9 yards. Played a lot of special teams though.
Yeah, Asiato was a guy that I talked a lot about in during the preseason, and I liked what he brought to the table then. And he's a core special teams player for the team who our special teams unit was really good this season.
Yes.
If you guys don't know, they were really quite good. And that's just a combination of having guys like Matt Asiata, who, like you said, has basically no stats at his actual
No.
position for the Vikings, but what he brings to the table shows up collectively with how well our special teams played. So he
Right.
will definitely be one of those guys who will be fighting for a roster spot in 2013. But what he'll bring to the special teams table will, I think you'll see him back on this squad too.
I hope so. But I'm not sure if the Vikings are going to go out in the draft and look for that third down kind of running back guy because, as we saw the guys that were at the Senior Bowl, the Vikings organization was interviewing a lot of the smaller running backs.
Mm,
So they might be looking for a replacement, but like I said, they're not going to draft one unless they feel it fits and the value is right. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that one.
yeah, I have a bit of a theory on that one too. Is that I could potentially see the Vikings going after another running back in the middle rounds of the draft this season, just because of kind of what we said about Gerhardt and some of the issues that he had, and maybe potentially grooming someone for down the line if they decide to cut ties with him, to have someone who's maybe a little more explosive be Peterson's
Right.
backup.
Now, you mentioned explosive, and that brings up a name that I've been hearing and seeing a lot around the internet lately, and people really want to see him in Minnesota, and that's Reggie Bush.
Reggie Bush. I'm a Reggie Bush fan. Will he come to Minnesota? No.
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 He's going to want too much money. He's not going to have a big enough role. I just don't see it being a fit that would really work.
I really don't see a scenario in which the Vikings are going to want to pay a running back not named Adrian Peterson the kind of money that Reggie Bush is gonna think that he's gonna want. And like you said, he's gonna want to be the focal point at the running back position. And clearly, we
Right.
got that covered with Peterson. And
Oh, totally.
I just don't see a scenario in which he ends up in purple and gold in 2013. I really don't.
No, but we may see some other lesser known, cheaper, young running backs get a look in free agency. We might see the Vikings load up on them going into the preseason, taking them into camp, seeing what they got. Like I said, don't expect to see the big name, expensive guys. Just sit back and relax for now and watch the young guys come in and fight.
Hmm.
Which brings us to, I guess we're going to lump him in with the running backs because I technically he is. But we're going to talk about Jerome Felton, who currently is not a member of the Minnesota Vikings.
No, and I think that they will get that remedied here really, really shortly.
I would hope so because he was an essential part of Adrian Peterson having the season he had
Hmm.
and Christian Ponder being able to pass for the amount of yards he did.
Hmm. You look at,
There's a reason he made the Pro Bowl.
oh,
It's because he's good.
yeah, he's quite good. Uh, he's a young player. He fits the mold of what Rick Spielman and Leslie Frazier are trying to do with this team. And hey, here's a young guy who's high character, motivated, and plays at a damn good level for this team. And he's going to show up and he's going to give it your all. And he's not going to go out of his way to complain about whatever.
No.
Yeah. So,
And this is really weird coming from me saying how important it is to get him back because before the season, I was really down on him. I had character issue problems with him. I didn't like that he came from the Lions, an organization where things were all messed up. And I did. I gave him a lot of crap about it. But you know what? I'm glad that he came out and just proved me totally wrong.
yeah, me too. And who would have thought that out of the guys that Minnesota signed, you went, okay, well, we had a really high hopes for Jerome Simpson based on the fact that he like flipped over people in Cincinnati that one time, and we were all so desperate for having just someone out there at wide receiver. We were hoping we'd
Right.
be talking about him based on the contract that he got. We were hoping that John Carlson would be the guy that we'd be talking about, and it turns out that Jerome Felton, the one that I mean, nobody, that was not a big splashy sign by any
No.
means at all. And it turns out that Jerome Felton is the guy that, hey, he's the one that they need to take care of, like ASAP to get back on this team.
Yeah, I could see them throwing 3 or 4 mil a year at him just to keep him there.
Hmm. Which I believe would make him the highest paid fullback in the NFL, I think.
I believe so, but I think it's worth it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely worth it.
Well, before we close out the show, let's talk a quick moment about something that I know that you didn't really want to talk about,
Oh, what's that, Mr. Adam Carlson?
and that's your pal Randy Moss.
Yes, shall we talk about Randy?
Well, I don't really want to talk about him because he's not a Viking, and I know that hurts a lot of Vikings fans to hear me say that. But he's wearing a different team's jersey,
Hmm.
and he's someone else's headache. But let's share in that headache for now. Randy Moss goes on to say that he is the greatest wide receiver ever to play the game. I don't have the direct quote in front of me, but it was something to that extent.
Yeah, that's the gist of it, is what he said.
So how did that comment strike you?
Well, that's just Randy being Randy. uh, honestly, I don't agree with it. We've talked about that before we started recording. But in the same respect, Randy Moss probably should think that he's the greatest wide receiver to ever play the game. Because if he doesn't, why are you still playing? Like, in my opinion, you should think that you are the best at your position when you're out there on the field. And with someone who's been at it as long as what Randy has, hey, do you blame him for saying that? Yeah, I'm in the running for being the one of the best wide receivers to ever play the game. And is he the best? No, he's not. Jerry Rice is the best, but more power to him for taking a media day where players don't really say anything anymore that's all that interesting because as soon as they do, the media does exactly what they're doing to Randy Moss. And
Oh
they
yes,
gotta spin it and they gotta make it into some big overblown thing, whatever, and it's the reason why we don't hear interesting quotes from our players anymore.
exactly. But the thing is I think that Randy Moss is doing this because he's a free agent heading into next season. He's going to want to sign on with the team. He's going to want to get a decent contract. He's going to want to have a nice role with that team. And this is his way of kind of saying, "Hey, I am out here. Pay attention to me." You know, that's what he's doing.
Yeah, if he wants to sign on with another team, he just did the exact opposite of what he should have been doing. And by opening his mouth after a season where he basically really hasn't done anything for the 49ers all that substantial, uh,
Not really, no.
I mean, you could say that at this point in his career, he's Michael Jenkins with less effort and more of a headache. I mean, that's is that not true?
I'll give you that one.
Yeah. Um, him opening his mouth isn't going to get him signed onto another team. If he wants to go with another team, he'll have three catches for 150 yards and three touchdowns in the Super Bowl if he wants a job in 2013, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you, but let's call this one a close. And I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Do you have anything else you'd like to say before we go?
Um, we're talking about wide receivers next week, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that's our plan for next week. So we'll have plenty of talk on Percy Harvin and what the Vikings will be doing about drafting a receiver, which I think everyone thinks is pretty likely.
Some rumors of some former Packers on the way.
Yeah, maybe Brett Favre, maybe not. I'm kidding.
But we'll have that to look forward to next week. So I'd like to thank everyone for listening and stay classy, Minnesota.